Well, Texas Tech absolutely mauls Kansas in a 42-17 win, but at what cost? Some really key injuries for Texas Tech. How will that affect their run toward the college football playoff? Welcome into the channel. The Big 12 is open for business. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want the best Big 12 podcast in the world. All right. So here's what happened. This game was not quite as ho-hum as the final score might make you think. If you're just looking, all right, 42-17. Tech was about a 2-touchdown favorite. Red Raiders cover easily. This is what they've been doing all season, John. They've beaten every single opponent this year by at least 24 points. If you watch this game, it was a little trickier than that for Texas Tech. We'll get to the injury issues in just a moment, but first and foremost, just from how the game went, I mean, Tech jumps out 21-0. Then Kansas scores 17 straight points, and it's 21-17. The Jayhawks actually had the ball down just 4 early in the second half. Then Texas Tech rips off the final 21 points of the game, and they completely physically dominated in the trenches, offensive and defensive lines. That's the obvious story of this game. But, man, credit Kansas. They did fight like that. When it got to 21-17, after it was 21-0, and it looked like Tech was just going to run away and win this game by 50, it felt for a time like, oh, man, like Texas Tech may actually be in some trouble here because Baron Morton gets knocked out of the game, had led Tech on a couple of touchdown drives. They then had to settle for a couple of field goals that were a little bit frustrating if you're a Texas Tech fan. And that has been an issue going back to the Houston game, right? Was finishing drives. That was a problem. So that is certainly something to work on and think about if you're a Texas Tech fan thinking about the ceiling of this team. But still, the game was totally out of reach for Kansas, right? 21-0. Well, here comes Will Hammond after the Baron Morton injury, and people like myself, it looks like have probably spoken a bit too soon about Will Hammond being like the guy ready to go right now. I do think tonight was proof positive of like, hey, why Joey McGuire stays the course. Like, yeah, Baron Morton's the starting quarterback. This is Baron Morton's team. It's also just college football, man. I mean, I think against a much better defense, you saw Will Hammond came out and was just balling in that game. Looked incredible. Here against Kansas, it took him a while to get going, and he really struggled. There were some good shots from the camera crew at Fox that caught him like kind of just exhaling after they had finally scored when he was in the game at quarterback, because it looked like he was a little bit tight. The passing game definitely was not working. Kansas got a lot of momentum. They hit the 50-plus yard field goal before the end of the half, and all of a sudden it was like, man, like Kansas is right in this thing. And if you want to pinpoint a play, I mean, the biggest play of the game is it's 21-17. Jayhawks had just gotten a big defensive stop on a 3rd and short for Texas Tech to force a punt and get the ball back. Well, then it's 3rd and short for Kansas, and it feels like they're going to take this ball down and score somehow. It's either going to be a 1-point game or maybe they go ahead with a touchdown, and Texas Tech gets a TFL. Again, they dominate up front. Not a good day for the Kansas offensive line. They get a big TFL, a stop. Then all of a sudden the dam sort of broke for Will Hammond and company with the Tech offense. And frankly, what Tech had to do was just turn to just ground and pound, just run the ball. Just run the ball, run Will Hammond. You know, if that means running Will Hammond, you better just do that. That was a guy who was ready to do it today, by the way, as evidenced by, one of the highlight plays of the game, his last touchdown run, he just destroyed a Kansas defender right by the pylon to get in for a touchdown. They played the audio of that. It was great work by the TV crew, and obviously great work by Will Hammond, too. He finished with 8 carries for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that was really it. It was when Tech finally just said, all right, you know what? Forget the passing game, dude. Tech only threw for 133 yards passing. 2 quarterbacks combined only completed 50% of their passes, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, which that was Hammond's, right? He threw a bad interception in that time period where the game was feeling a little bit shaky. But they got down to it on the ground, my friends. And that's when the game turned. You get a stop in short yardage, you get the ball back to your quarterback, and you just put his head down and start running. And then, oh, by the way, yeah, they've also got Cameron Dickey. Cameron Dickey tonight, 21 carries for 263 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a 71-yard touchdown. Tech as a team ran the ball for 372 yards. 372. That was on 40 carries, so that's an average of 9 yards a pop. Kansas's defense has struggled against mobile quarterbacks this year. They have struggled to stop the run. That's the book on the Jayhawks. It's no secret. That reared its ugly head once again tonight. 4 touchdowns on the ground as well for Tech. Like, man, every time they were handing the ball off or a quarterback was taking a carry, that was going for 9.3 yards a rip tonight. On the other side, about 9 sacks for the Texas Tech defense. 9 sacks. I mean, those are the 2 stats. Like, all you need to know from this game is Tech rushed for 372 yards and they had 9 sacks. I have said it before. I'll say it again. You're probably sick of me saying it if you watch this channel, but like the genius of what Texas Tech has done in the transfer portal is how much of an emphasis they put on the offensive and defensive lines. Like, Tech's idea here, and this goes for how they're recruiting moving forward too, where they're having a lot of success. It's we are going to become great in the trenches. It's the easiest spot, I think, to gain a lot of ground on the Big 12, like your peers in this conference. And that's the biggest difference between like SEC rosters and top-level Big 10 rosters and Big 12 and ACC rosters is what you have in the trenches. So devote most of your resources there and figure out the skill positions, but like build around what you have up front. Another example of Tech doing that this year. And this is such a, as frustrating as it may have been for Red Raiders fans for a minute there, this is such a statement on where Tech's program is. Like, this was a game against a capable enough Kansas team. Like, Kansas is not a bad team. They're not great, but they're not bad. And you have lost all momentum. You've got a quarterback injury. Skylar Gill-Howard got hurt too, who, at least as of 2 weeks ago, was Pro Football Focus's #1 defensive tackle in the country. So, we'll see. It looked like he came back out and was like smiling on the sideline. I hope that's not going to be a super long-term injury for him. But that is certainly a concern, something to think about. But when you experience that, you experience your starting quarterback get knocked out, the game's totally on the ropes. You've gotten multiple penalties for fans throwing tortillas on the field too many times, and it just doesn't matter. You go win another game by 4 touchdowns and cover easily. Like, that's where Tech's at right now. They're that much more talented. They are that much better than everybody else in the league at this moment. So congratulations to Texas Tech. Good on them. Honestly, I thought Kansas showed a lot of fight. Kansas is feisty, but the defense is just not up to par right now. I mean, they can't stop the run well enough to be a legitimate, championship contending tier team in the league right now. So Kansas gets a week off, which they probably need here. I mean, they've got to go play K-State on October 25th. I think K-State would prefer to turn around and just play Kansas right now after how beat up they got. Jalen Daniels took a lot of hits, all those sacks except for one at the very end with Cole Ballard. He's going to need an ice bath or 3 after that one. And frankly, probably everybody that plays Texas Tech will need that after playing them this year because they are that physical. So, I mean, now you just wonder, all right, what's going on with Baron Morton here? Joey McGuire said after the game that it was a calf issue that was similar to what happened to Baron Morton in the season opener. So not the injury from the Utah game, but the injury from the season opener. That makes it seem like it's not going to be all that serious. That certainly is the hope here. Because, yeah, I mean, my take after the Utah game with how well Will Hammond played, slung it around, utilized his athleticism. He looked awesome. Here, it very much looked a bit green, not in total command of the offense. Passing game was shaky. Again, not that Baron Morton's numbers in the passing game were fantastic either. This was clearly going to be a day where you just needed to run the ball. Like those hats, run the damn ball. But, yeah, it was definitely, look, I will admit, when I appear to be wrong, it certainly appears that was a premature take to say, hey, Will Hammond is definitively the better guy and the one that you want to ride with. I mean, you could still, I feel like, argue maybe the ceiling is higher for him. So, if you really poured all your development into him, but it became pretty clear there, like, hey, this is why you go with Baron Morton. But Tech's got to, I mean, if you're thinking about competing in playoff games, right? Like they'd be fine playing like this against anybody else in the Big 12, I think. But when it comes to playoff games, finish drives. Stop kicking field goals, finish more drives when Baron Morton is actually in the game. And, keep Baron Morton upright, keep him healthy. Because it did look tonight like there was a drop-off, at least for a while, with Will Hammond until Leftwich and company kind of figured out what they were doing and what was going to work. against Kansas. So, look, Tech's still very much the class of the Big 12. Nothing has changed that. Nothing that happens in the games that are still unfolding tonight is going to change that. But Tech did show some level of not being invincible there for a minute in the middle of the game before turning it all around and pulling it out. So my best wishes to Skylar Kill-Howard, Baron Morton. Hope they heal up fast. And looking forward to watching Texas Tech next week. Should get tougher for the Red Raiders coming up next week with Arizona State. So anyway, it's going to do it for me. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everybody that does that. Really helps me out. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. Make sure you tune in for the live show tomorrow, and I will talk to you all soon.